let's see here. So, Alan, I think we'll just go ahead and do a roll call just to make sure and make it all official that we're all here.
Okay, I'm going to do it in the same order. I guess it's alphabetical order. Acosta.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Durantes Puido.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Sarmiento.
Here.
Beach Olson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
All present, Chair.
We are all present and accounted for. All right. Outstanding.
Don't go anywhere.
Oh, wait. Right. Don't go down the escape hatch, Matt. Stop it. Okay.
No.
Well, if you'll all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm just waiting for the flag to come up. Oh, whoa. Where did we all go? No? Susie, no flag tonight?
Hold on, I think Elena's working on it.
Okay. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and are there any updates from the commissioners, any announcements any of you would like to make this evening before we jump into oral communications? Commissioner Veach Olson, I saw your hand raised first, so I'm going to go there.
Sure, thank you. So I just want to formally acknowledge and thank Commissioners Sarmiento and Chair Jones for your time on the Planning Commission. We think this is your last meeting with us, and so I would personally like to extend my thanks. Jenny, you've served for more than a term, 2 terms, I think, and I really appreciate.
More like 3.
Okay, well, gold star. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and the questions that you bring to everything that we discuss, and I really have enjoyed serving with you. And Chair Matt Jones, I appreciate the way that you have led us through Zoom commission meetings, and you've done it very skillfully and also just with a very collaborative spirit and allowed for open discussion in what is proven to be a challenging format at times. So thank you both for your service. I hope that you continue to serve our community in whatever capacity you see next.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Does anyone else? I saw a couple hands raised, so I just want to make sure. Commissioner Kammer.
Thank you. I want to reiterate what Commissioner Veach Olson said. Jenny Sarmiento, I've served with you for a long time. I remember when you came back on after being off and on and all that. So, and I appreciate your dedication to the community, and it has been a real pleasure to serve with you. And Matt, it's your leadership. I want to reiterate what Commissioner Veach Olson said. I mean, your leadership has been amazing during this challenging time of having to do the Zoom stuff, and I know that you're balancing work and family and this, which is all a challenge for all of us, but you've done it with grace and expertise and just humor, so I really appreciate that, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Is this a time can I ask, is for an announcement or no?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the time when we can talk about stuff that's not related to the agenda tonight. So sure.
Okay, I just wanted to announce that there's the climate action and what is it called? Climate Action and Adaptation Survey on the city website, and I wanted to encourage the public and anybody, the commissioners, to encourage their constituents to please take that climate action survey. It's really important for the city to get as much data as they can from our residents and what their thoughts are on different aspects of climate change, everything from transportation and greenhouse gas emissions to gardening and it runs the gamut. So and planning actually. So it does run into what we do. So I want to encourage people to take that survey. Thank you. That's all.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Cameron. Much appreciated. Jenny Sarmiento, Commissioner Sarmiento, did you have your hand raised as well?
Yes.
Great.
And
go ahead, please.
Actually, I was, what I would like to say is thank you so much. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you, and I'm really excited about the 2 new commissioners. Veronica, we haven't had a chance to meet in person or even, check in on ideas, but I'm really excited because you seem to know a lot. And same for Gina. I was just saying right before the meeting that Gina seems so prepared from day one when she joined the meeting. So I'm really excited. And the rest of you, Jenny, Anna, and Ed, it's been a pleasure serving with you. And Matt, the same thing, I mean, it's been great. I wish you would have been the chair before me so I could have learned from you. It was a hit and miss. But, I really would like to thank staff because they do an amazing job and also have always made themselves available for me when I had questions or I didn't understand something or get a tour. So I appreciate the whole department and how things are done. I'm gonna miss you guys, but I'll watch you on and off. And if it's another drive-through, please say no.
Love it. Did anyone else have any comments or announcements that they'd like to share? Seeing none. Commissioner Cole.
Sorry. Yes, please. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, again, I have only been here for a couple of meetings, but Matt, you lead one heck of a meeting. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate just how well you do your job, how well that your position, you fulfill the duties of your position. And it's a lot. It's really a lot. And so it just super groovy, cool. And Jenny, yeah, long history. So congratulations on the next awesome thing. I also wanted to just point out to everyone out there viewing that today is Giving Tuesday, and pick a charity, pick your favorite local nonprofit, give them $10, give them $20, whatever you can spare to give. All your local nonprofits they are struggling in COVID, and you might not think that you have a lot to give, but $5 here, $10 there makes a really big difference. And it's just, it's a really nice feeling to know that you're supported by your community. So if you have a chance in the next couple hours, just send your local nonprofit some love. Thank you.
Commissioner Cole, much appreciated. Commissioner Acosta, I think you had your hand raised as well.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Matt. And Matt and Jenny, I just really, I want to thank you. And, thank you for serving our community. Greatly appreciated, and thumbs up to both of you. You guys are rock stars. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. It's much appreciated, the comments. Thank you. Commissioner Durantes Polito.
I'm new here, so I'm barely learning the ropes, but I really do appreciate the structure that you provide, Commissioner Jones, and best believe, Commissioner Jenny, that I will reach out to you just because I know I'll need some support. And like you said, I know we haven't met yet, but I do thank both of you guys for your expertise and your welcoming energy. So I do appreciate that. And good luck on your next chapter. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the comments. I guess I'm the last one then with some comments. And I will say that this being my last meeting, actually, it's been sort of rolling around for a little while, for a couple of months coming up, that this was sort of going to be the end of my time. And my time hasn't been as long as Commissioner Kammer or Commissioner Sarmiento at all. I think I was brought in on a 3-year to kind of fill in and finish out someone else's term. The greatest experience I've had here is the learning about how our city operates, about how our community behaves, and works together to try to solve problems. I think the lasting impression I will have is that we are truly a community of diversity. And I think for the majority of that, we embrace that diversity. And you can just tell by the commissioners the passion that have come before us, and that will stay on after us. There's a level of commitment and a level of passion in doing this role, and fulfilling the service that I don't know if you find it other places. I just don't. And I think that people have a tendency to take these things for granted, and even the general population of our own community will take this for granted. And so I just want to say thank you to the commissioners I've served with in the past and the commissioners I serve with now. You all have taught me so much about our community, about how government works, about my own perspectives as well. And also a big, heavy shout out to staff, right? I mean, it's not just the people that we see, it's all the people we don't see who go and do the hard work of running the city and preparing us for these meetings, right? We get together once a month, but they're doing this job every day. And the exposure to new experiences that I've had here, primarily with like Watsonville Academy, being in the very first inaugural class that we went through, I would encourage everyone to do that. I went through it with Commissioner Acosta, and it was an invaluable experience to see and be able to interact with all the different major departments within the city and see how they collaborate to get their jobs done, to keep a city of 60,000+ people running and operating and eating and keeping the lights turned on every day. It's a big job. So there's just a huge shout out. And sometimes in here there's an unsung person that we don't get to see very often, and it's Alan Smith. Alan has been a huge coach to me whenever I've had a question, not just staff, but in just understanding how these things work together. He's been an invaluable resource for me, and I think he's been an invaluable resource for the city as well. So in closing, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, because this isn't coming from the chair of a commission. This is coming from a citizen of Watsonville. Thank you all for the jobs that you do. They are hard, they are difficult, and sometimes they are very much thankless, but keep doing them because they do make a difference, and all of you make a difference. So thank you. And with that, thanks. With that, I guess if there's nothing else, I will move on to presentations and oral communications. If I haven't missed anything, right? Nope. Okay. So this time is set aside for members of the general public to address the Planning Commission on any item not on the agenda, which is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No action or discussion shall be taken on any item presented, except that any commissioner may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may ask questions for clarification. All matters of an administrative nature will be referred to staff. All matters relating to Planning Commission will be noted in the minutes and may be scheduled for discussion at a future meeting or referred to staff for clarification or report. Any commissioner may place matters brought up under oral communications on a future agenda. All speakers are asked to fill out, well, we won't be filling out a card and leaving up the lectern, obviously. But do announce your name and your address in order to obtain an accurate record for the minutes. So do we have anyone from the public who would like to address the Planning Commission on any item not currently on the agenda for this evening?
I'm not seeing any hands up.
Okay. And I think now we have a presentation to the Planning Commission on information available to the Planning Commission. Did we lose Susie?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Just one second. Okie dokie.
Hey, Susie, while you're bringing that up, can I make one statement to the planning commissioners?
Sure thing.
Yeah, one thing. I know I got a lot of credit for leading these things during Zoom. I will say that I had a little bit of a secret weapon. Before I became a planning commissioner and before we were doing all this, I spent a lot of time doing video conferences in a sales environment. So this was a little bit like second nature. So just saying, this was a practiced habit for me. So thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, hello everybody, Susie Merriam here. Just want to go over information that's available to the Planning Commissioner, and also want to double check that you all received the Planning Commissioner's Handbook in your packets. Yay! Okay, so a lot of the information I've been going over, you can also find similar information in that little book. I was surprised at how small it was because I only have it on my Kindle. So I was expecting like a big textbook thing, but it's a nice little handbook. So I hope that's useful for everybody. So the amount of information that is available, hold on, to the Planning Commission can be super overwhelming. I'm sure you'll all agree. You have about 5 days. You get your packet on Thursday. You have the meeting on Tuesday. You have to review everything and understand the project backwards and forwards. It's daunting. I know that. So I want to just give you some information on where you can find out more. You know, we try and distill everything down into our staff reports, but my presentation, I'm just going to go over other places you can find information about projects. So sources of information, you've got the bylaws, zoning ordinance, the zoning map, the general plan, specific plans, design standards and guidelines. We've got the subdivision regulations, development and use permit applications. Of course, there's the staff reports and staff information. You've got public comments, and then there's always a site visit as well that you can do. So I'm going to kind of just dive into each of these and talk about them and show you where you can find them on our website as well. And we'll leave it at that tonight. So the first thing is the bylaws. Dun, dun, dun. The bylaws set out essentially how the Planning Commission functions. It talks about and gives direction on how you take a vote, when the Planning Commission can meet. All the duties are in there, all the different roles, when we elect a chair and a vice chair, when commissioners term out, or when they are replaced after an election. So if you have any questions about how the Planning Commission meeting is run, you would want to go to those bylaws, and those should be in your Planning Commission handbook. There's an interesting holdover from the past in this, that in our bylaws that wasn't changed, in that the Planning Commission used to meet on a Monday, and I'm not quite sure when that changed. But there's a little section in here that talks about the Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday now. However, if we are somehow going to miss a Planning Commission meeting due to holiday, we can meet on the following Monday. It was never changed to the following Tuesday. So interesting little tidbit in the bylaws. Next thing you guys can look at is our zoning ordinance. And I'm just gonna pull that up really quick. I know I talked about this at our last meeting, but you go to our website, you've got the municipal code, and Title 14 is the one that you guys have the purview over. And this has got all the different regulations about, again, what permits are required when. It's got the parking regulations, it's got the district regulations, everything that we talk about in our staff reports, and pretty much everything that you guys consider. Most of it is found in the zoning ordinance. So just wanted to show you that. And of course, there's the zoning map, the map with pretty colors that I also went over at the last meeting. So sometimes if you're looking at a project, let's say it's a new new housing development or commercial development, and you're wondering what types of uses or what the zoning is on adjacent properties, or kind of get a feel for how that might fit in with adjacent properties, you can always look at the zoning map, and that'll tell you, you know, what zone the property is in and whether it's on the edge of a different zone, and can give you more information. And of course, the general plan, and I'm going to pull that one up on our website as well. So when you go to our website, you'll see it's broken into different chapters. And again, the general plan really guides everything that we do in the city. As you can see, there's housing, there's children, there's environmental resources, circulation, public safety. Everything we do is in here. And then you can just click on a chapter. I'm going to pick land use because that's a lot that us planners deal with. And when we talk about goals and policies and things like that, they're actually, just scroll down here really quick.
Hey, Susie, we're only seeing the general plan page.
Yeah,
we're not seeing
we're
what
not
you're
seeing
seeing.
where you are, Susie.
You're not?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, then I will close that. Weird. Thank you for letting me know. So anyway, there's the general plan. Specific plans. Currently, we have one specific plan that's in place, and that's the Manabiao specific plan. And that is its own set of zoning and design regulations for the area off of Ohlone Parkway and West Beach. So that's where the FedEx building is, and then we've got two very large parcels that are undeveloped right now. So we have a whole separate document that guides the development of that area. And as you also all know, we have got the downtown specific plan that we're working on, and in the future that would be a separate set of regulations that we would refer to when we're reviewing a project, and that's also somewhere you can look to get more information. We do have design standards and guidelines as well. We have downtown architectural and land use standards. Can you see this screen? Anybody?
No. We're just seeing the link screen. That's it.
Okay. Wow, that's strange. Okay. We have the sorry. We have the multifamily residential design guidelines for both rental projects and ownership projects. We have our livable communities residential design guidelines, and then we have our downtown land use and architectural guidelines. So depending on the type of project, we would also refer to those, and those are the things. If you go to this link on the web on the screen, you can also view all of those documents if you have a question about something in our staff report or something in the project. So earlier I said that the Planning Commission has purview over Title 14, which is zoning. Well, you also deal with Title 13, which is the subdivision ordinance and maps. And you deal with this when we have major subdivisions that are coming through, like any large residential development that is creating 5 or more parcels, it's also going to have some type of design review permit. So that's going to go to the Planning Commission for recommendation to the council. So if we've ever got land divisions going on, you can always look at our subdivision regulations as well. Then, of course, you can actually just look at our application submittal requirements. One thing that planners do when we get a project in is we go through the list of submittal requirements, which this is just, and I'm not going to click and go to the application forms on the web, but you can see the back of the application forms have all of the required documents and information that we need. And so we literally go through and make sure that everything that's required as part of that application is provided before we can deem that application complete. And so what's on your screen now is just a snippet of the design review application where it's talking about needing the site plan, what size it needs to be, and what information that site plan needs to have, and further information that's required are landscape plans and elevations and et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, we get to the staff report. So our staff reports, we try to take all that information that we've reviewed that I've gone over before this slide and distill it down into a relatively readable document for you, so that hopefully you don't have to go look at all this other information. So we've got a recommendation that we make at the beginning of the report. We have the lot information, the size, the location, a quick description of the project. We tell you what the zoning district is and the general plan and what surrounding districts are. We tell you what the existing use is, what the proposed use is, what surrounding uses are, and that would again help you to kind of get an understanding of, okay, is this, in this case, is this liquor store, you know, really an appropriate location based on the surrounding uses? Yes, no, maybe so. That's just another piece of information for you. For development projects, it's often important to know whether it's in a flood zone, because there's additional requirements for projects in the flood zone that they have to do. We have a section for CEQA review, of course, applicant and property owner information. Let's see. Then we give you a background. We talk about the process, and really the process is going to tell you all about the different permits and the type of review that's required for that permit. So for this one, for it was a liquor license, it would have just been a special use permit. So we would talk about the special use permit process, how it works, and what is required for approval. And then there's the standard of review that you see on every staff report, which is talking about whether it's something where we're making the rules or we're enforcing the rules, whether it's a legislative or quasi-judicial decision. And of course, we go over the project. Again, we go into more depth of environmental review, and then usually we just provide a summary and a conclusion. And then finally, public comment. Well, almost finally, there's one more. Public comment is an important part of the decision-making process. The public notices are sent to property owners within 300 feet of the project site. So, so people that have, you know, really an interest in knowing what's going on around them are informed about the proposed project. And it is perfectly okay to discuss the project with the public as well as the applicant. Both parties, of course, have a vested interest in the project and may have information that staff didn't capture or you weren't able to capture. The important thing to remember is that you can't prejudge the project, and that when you do come to the Planning Commission, just to disclose, anyone that you may have talked to ahead of the meeting about that specific project. But it's absolutely fine to get more information, from the public or the applicants themselves. Finally, the last thing is a site visit. You can look at plans and you can look at maps and you can look at the zoning map, but really actually visiting the site sometimes will help clear a lot of questions up that you might have, especially if you're concerned with adjacent properties, or maybe the parking configuration or something. Just going out to the site and taking a look around can always be very helpful as well. So that's it. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Susie.
Is that Commissioner Cole has a question?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Not really a question, but a comment. I just thank you. These are really, really helpful. I think it's good for us as commissioners, but it's also good for the public to understand the process and that there's a method, there's a protocol, there's a policy, there's a procedure for everything, and that nothing's gone into lightly. And so I think that everybody needs to know that nothing's gone into lightly.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it's helpful.
Susie, this is Matt. I would also say thank you for this. And these additions you've been doing have been invaluable as well. But I would also encourage my fellow commissioners to make sure you also read the city charter about the Planning Commission, because that's kind of where it starts, right? And then everything.
I forgot about that. Yes.
Right, like it kind of starts there, and then everything kind of evolves off of that. So and it's like 2 paragraphs. I mean, literally, it's I think 8 lines.
Like that.
And so it really gives you a good idea of the scope and authority that the Planning Commission has and the importance of it. And that's why these things aren't entered into lightly, as Commissioner Cole pointed out. So just encouraging you to just take a look at that and start there as well. Commissioner Kammer.
Thank you. Susie, the general plan is from 2005. How
Correct.
often does it get updated?
The general plan is supposed to be updated every 20 to 30 years.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure y'all are aware of our history with our general plan update. But in the early 2000s, the city did embark on a 2030 general plan update. And unfortunately, that was ended up on the losing side of a couple lawsuits. So we will be looking at doing another general plan update. I would say probably maybe 3 to 5 years from now. But right now, they're very expensive and very time consuming, and we have a couple little details to work out still. So yeah, right now we've got the 2005 general plan that was adopted in 1990.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that reading through it, our city has grown considerably and changed a lot since that time, and a lot of what's in there is not relevant and or has changed. So I was just wondering that I know
Yeah.
it's a lot of work and I know it is what it is. So thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Great. Are there any other questions? And I can't see Commissioner Veach Olson on my screen, so I don't know if she's waving.
I
There you
don't
are.
see
Okay.
anything. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, just the way the view is stacked up, she was kind of one down, so I made sure I got in there. All right. No other questions for Susie at this time? Going once, going twice?
Okay.
Sold. All right. Susie, thank you again. Wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Let me stop. Okay, stop. All right, there we go.
There we go. Now I can see everybody. It's great to have everybody back. All right. At this time, we will move into the public hearings, and I did note we don't have meetings to approve since they were not completed in time from it looks like October and November. So that's why they're not on the agenda for this evening to approve prior or past minutes. So the first item we have is an application for a special use permit with design review, lot consolidation and environmental review, application number 7, to allow construction of a new 9,884 plus or minus square foot automotive restoration shop located at 140 Grove Street, filed by Ron Gordon, applicant, on behalf of Hank Wempe, property owner. And we will now have a staff report.
Thank you, Chair Jones. My name is Ivan Carmona, Associate Planner for the Community Development Department. I want to thank the commissioners and the city community residents for presenting or being here at the presentation for the Planning Commission. Tonight, I'll be presenting the special use permit with design review and lot consolidation located at 140 Grove Street. Tonight's staff report will consist of the project location, the proposed project, the procedure for the project. A brief discussion will review the general plan consistencies, conformity with district regulations, design review consistency and floodplain development and drainage, followed by a brief discussion on the CEQA review, as well as findings for the project, and ending with staff's recommendation. The project location is 144 Grove Street, excuse me for the typo, it's 144 Grove Street. The lot size is 0.29 acres in size, and there's 2 subject properties with APNs 017-252-25 and -26. The adjacent uses are industrial and non-conforming residential uses. Abutting the property is Body by Hank, which was constructed in 1995 and is currently owned by Hank Wempe. Hank Wempe went ahead and purchased the adjacent property to construct his new automotive restoration shop, which he will be focusing on auto collision repairs, while his son will take over the existing body shop at 140 Grove Street and do classic restoration of vehicles. Here is a vicinity of the city of Watsonville, so you can see in relation where this project location is. As the highlight shows, it's in the western portion of the city, and the arrow showing it's in between Pajaro River and 129, Highway 129, which is West Riverside Drive. The zoning designation for the property is general industrial with a general plan land use designation of industrial. The proposed project is to demolish the existing 1,176 square foot building and construct a new 9,884 square foot automotive restoration shop. Business hours proposed are Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. closed on Sundays. The automotive restoration shop proposes 4 new full-time employees, and the following images show the floor plan and site plan, as long as a building elevation showing the building design and a building section showing the construction of the building. On this slide here, we'll briefly go over the site plan and floor plan. The site plan consists of 9 standard parking spaces measuring 9 feet wide and 19 feet depth, and a portico cochere providing visual interest to the building. The floor plan proposes a 7,352 square foot space consisting of an office, 3 restrooms, with majority of space dedicated to vehicle restoration, paint booth, and the porte cochere. The second floor consists of a 2,530 square foot storage area for the mezzanine. As you see on the floor plan here, the mezzanine has 3 rooms for storage and also shows the open ceiling plan for the building. The procedure for the project entails a special use permit pursuant to Watson Municipal Code Section 14-16.603, Subdivision C, and special permits are approved by the Planning Commission and appealable to the City Council. The Commission's review will determine if the proposed use and construction is and will continue to be compatible with surrounding existing or planned uses, and for the purpose of establishing special conditions as may be necessary to ensure harmonious integration and compatibility of uses in the neighborhood and with the surrounding uses. All new construction, exterior remodeling, additions, or changes in use requiring additional parking, which involve multifamily residential, commercial, industrial, or public purposes, are subject to a design review permit pursuant to Watson Municipal Code Section 14-12.400. Lot consolidations are regulated by Article 2 of Chapter 8 of Title 13 of the Watson Municipal Code Subdivision Ordinance. A lot consolidation is requested by the applicant and is allowed pursuant to Watson Municipal Code Section 13-8.04 when 2 continuous parcels are under the same ownership. The Community and Development Director shall approve, conditionally approve, or deny a lot consolidation application based on the findings set forth in Watson Municipal Code Section 13-8.06. The special use permit with design review, lot consolidation, and environmental review are combined for the Planning Commission's review. The last procedure is the environmental review, which involves a CEQA procedure to determine if an initial study is required or if the project meets a CEQA categorical exemption. Staff will now focus on how the project is consistent with the general plan, the district standards, the design review consistencies, drainage, floodplain management and development, the Monterey Bay Air Resource District, and lot consolidation. The project is consistent with the following 2005 general plan goal and policies concerning industrial land use and land use suitability. Goal 4.4, industrial land use, as the project achieves living wage employment and maintains a balance among jobs, housing, and other urban land uses. Policy 4.D.1, modernization, as the project is conditioned to maintain high standards for public safety and environmental quality. Standards include emission reduction, noise reduction, built-in fire protection, water conservation, and the safe use, storage, and disposal of hazardous materials. Goal 4.7, land use suitability, as the project is zoned general industrial and best suits the land use overall suitability, including existing roadways and utilities with no growth-inducing impacts. And policy 4.G, land use suitability, as the project proposes development of urban uses best suited for the IG zoning district. Now staff will discuss how the project meets the IG zoning district standards. Here is the site plan and floor plan for the proposed project. Pursuant to Watson Municipal Code Section 14-16.604, the IG zoning district allows 0 setbacks for the front, rear, and side yard property lines. As shown in the site plan, the project meets the IG district standards, providing 0 setbacks for the side yards and a setback of 29 feet for the front yard and 23 feet for the rear yard. Pursuant to Watson Municipal Code Section 14-17.1001, automotive repair and garages require 5 spaces plus 1 space for each 800 square feet of floor area in excess of 3,000 square feet. The project building footprint of 7,354 square feet is used to calculate parking requirements, as the second floor mezzanine storage area does not require parking spaces, accounting for a 15% reduction allowed per Watson Municipal Code Section 14 17.108. The number of required parking spaces is 9. As shown on the site plan, 9 parking spaces are provided. Access is provided via two 30-foot driveway, 30-foot wide driveway approaches off Grove Street, and a 20-foot wide alleyway provide access to the rear of the site. The IG zoning district allows a maximum building height of 35 feet. The building height proposed is 29.5 feet and meets the IG zoning district standards. The IG zoning district also allows 100% lot coverage pursuant to Watson Municipal Code section 14-16.604. As shown in the site plan, the project is proposing 57% lot coverage and meets the IG zoning district standards. The building design for the automotive restoration shop is that of a concrete industrial building. The building's walls proposed materials are CMU block walls with smooth finishes. Design features include a 5-foot parapet wall along the roof line for screening any roof mounted equipment and a portico shelf providing visual interest for the building facade. The parapet wall and portico shelf roof materials proposed are standing seam metal with forest green finishes. Metal awnings are proposed over the roll-up doors and the doorways colored rusty red. The building material, as I said, is CMU block walls and will be grayish color. The project is proposing 12,261 square feet of new impervious surface and is characterized as a Tier 2 project under the city's post-construction stormwater performance standards. As you see on the site plan, 3 drainage management areas are proposed where water quality treatment shall be facilitated. As a project condition of approval, prior to submission of a building permit, a percolation test is required to accompany the stormwater control plan. Public Works staff reviewed the stormwater control plan and found it to meet the city's post-construction stormwater standards. The project is also located in a special flood hazard area and is subject to a 1% or greater chance of flooding in any given year. Therefore, the project is subject to Chapter 912 floodplain management of the Watson Municipal Code. Flood depth is projected to be 31 feet above existing grade. Therefore, the project design is conditioned to meet or exceed FEMA guidelines technical bulletins TB 1-93 and TB 7-93 and/or have openings to permit automatic entry and exit of flood water or be certified by a registered professional engineer or architect. So as I want to point out, this property is located in the floodplain. As you see on the slide, the predicted floodplain elevation is 31 feet above the existing grade, which may occur in a 1% any given year. So what this means is that this may have a chance of being flooded, this building. So when they submit for a building permit, you have to ensure that they meet the FEMA guidelines as well as the city municipal code requirements of flood prevention, allowing water to exit and enter the building. The project is also proposing a paint booth and is conditioned to submit evidence of a coating operations general permit from the Monterey Bay Air Resources District, The project is also conditioned to include an air filtration and ventilation system to capture all volatile compounds from the paint booth. All exhaust and ducting equipment shall be directed away from all adjacent residential development. Because the project is located in a special flood hazard area, the project is also conditioned to submit evidence of a spill prevention hazardous waste permit from the County of Santa Cruz Department of Environmental Health prior to issuance of a building permit. The applicant is proposing a 9,884 square foot automotive restoration body shop, and buildings cannot be constructed over existing property lines, therefore necessitating a lot consolidation. The applicant has submitted all documents required pursuant to the findings for lot consolidation found in Watson Municipal Code section 13-8.06. The lot consolidation meets the IG zoning district standards for lot size and frontage requirements. The 2 continuous parcels are owned by Hank Wempe. The lot consolidation should not impair or relocate existing easements, infrastructure, or utilities. Access to the site is provided off Grove Street and a 20-foot wide alleyway to the rear of the property. and the two 30-foot wide driveway approaches off Grove Street shall be constructed in accordance with City of Watsonville Public Improvement Standards. The lot consolidation has been combined with the special use permit with design review for the commission's review. The project is exempted from further environmental review pursuant to Class 3 and Class 32 categorical exemptions, as the project is an infill project, zone general industrial, located in an urbanized zone where all necessary public services and facilities are available, and the surrounding use is not environmentally sensitive. Staff has provided the Planning Commission with the resolution and Exhibit A, findings for the special use permit, design review, and lot consolidation, as well as conditions for the project. With that said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the special use permit with design review, lot consolidation, and environmental review to allow construction of a new 9,884 square foot automotive restoration shop located on a 0.29 acre property at 140 Grove Street. This concludes staff's report. Do the commissioners have any questions?
Thank you, Ivan. Great report, first of all. Secondly, I did want to ask just one quick question before the other commissioners jump in, and that was during the opening, I think you referred to it as 144 Grove Street?
I'm sorry, that's the adjacent property. It's 140 Grove Street. I'm sorry. I got those mixed up.
Okay, no problem. Just wanted to make sure, because everything I saw in our documentation said 140. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to go through and amend everything. But okay,
No,
great,
no.
thanks. That's all I had. Commissioners, and once again, I'm gonna change my camera view here so I can see everyone. Hold on. Maybe that'll work. Nope. There we go. Okay. So are there any clarifying or technical questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Cole.
Just so that I'm clear on it, there's a couple of different things going on that we've combined. One is the lot consolidation. And I guess my confusion, I'm not clear on from the blueprints, is the existing building coming down and a bigger one is being built across the two lots?
Correct, Commissioner. So there's an existing building that's over, there's an existing building that is over a property line that's going to be demolished. There's going to be a new building constructed over that property line, necessitating the lot consolidation.
Okay. That was one question. Is there, I mean, this might not be anything that we have anything to do with, but this is like the first step, so they don't have a building permit yet, because is the building permit pursuant to this, so we don't really have a timeline?
Once the special use permit is approved, the applicant and property owner will have 2 years from the approval to start construction and pull a permit.
Okay, good to know. Let's see. I was a little concerned about the noise and emissions, which is on page 7, the policy D4D1 modernization. And how do we know that they're going to comply with that at this point? We don't.
We've conditioned the project with business hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The concern here is that there are existing non-conforming residential uses. Usually in an industrial zone, you don't have residential uses, but as the city was developed and constructed, these homes stayed in these locations. Now they're zoned industrial. In order to ease that concern, the project is going to be conditioned through the business hours as well as the type of construction. They're having CMU walls to hopefully mitigate any noise to disturb the neighbors. And there's going to be an air filtration and ventilation system for the paint booth, which also requires a general coding permit from the Monterey Bay Air Resources Board District.
Okay, got it. talk to me about setbacks.
So
What's on either side? I didn't go
So-
do a site visit, sorry.
no problem. To adjacent, the abutting property to the left, if you're facing the building, is the existing Body by Hank facility at 144 Grove Street. And on the other side of the building, there is the non-conforming residential uses with also an industrial use in the back of the property.
Okay.
So the thing that makes it difficult with this project is we don't have any requirements or standards in our zoning ordinance that says we need to provide a setback because of that
On the
existing
sides.
non-conforming, yes, residential use,
Okay.
as the IT zoning standards allows 0 setbacks for the front, rear, and side yards. Now, if the adjacent property was zoned residential, then the city can then say you need to set back this wall 10 feet, but it's not zoned residential,
Okay.
it's zoned industrial, and there's a non-conforming residential use there.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. That I'm like learning every day. Thank you. Let's see. On page 9, talk to me about parking. That's always kind of one of my concerns. That I feel like oftentimes we have too much, but in the case where there are going to be more cars than potentially, definitely probably more cars than employees. And
Is that me or is that Commissioner
we
Cole?
were also
That's Commissioner Cole.
an email
Commissioner
in our
Cole, we're really
packet
not hearing you.
from a neighbor.
Commissioner Cole, your connection is not very good.
Let me see if I can.
So if I heard your question correctly, Commissioner Cole, you're asking if parking may be a concern for the adjacent uses, as far as the comment we received from one of the concerned citizens regarding parking on the street and businesses blocking driveway approaches. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's one thing, and I was just wondering at the requirement of 9. I'm sorry, my DOG. At the requirement of 9, is that based on? That's based on the floor space, or that's based on? I just didn't know if that was enough to if that was enough parking given the kind of business that it is.
The parking
that's going to have a lot of extra cars.
The parking tabulations are based on the zoning ordinance for parking requirements for automotive uses, and it's based on square footages. So I spoke to the property owner, Hank Wempe, about that concern because we do have a concern as far as parking. So the way he operates his existing Body by Hank facility at 144 Grove Street, he says that all vehicles are parked within the building, they are worked on, and as they are completed, the customer is contacted, who then comes in and picks up the car and leaves. So in the existing facility at 144 Grove Street, there's sufficient parking. Now, Hank has said that he's responsible with his parking spaces, and he doesn't store anything outdoors. So we have conditioned the project to ensure that there's no storage of vehicles outside the building. The building footprint is 7,000 square feet in size. So if he has or wants to store vehicles, he could store them within the building. There are 4 employees for the new proposed business, and 9 spaces are provided. 4 of those will be for employees. The remaining 5 will be for customers. And the benefit with having a big building with roll-up doors is if not enough parking is required, he may be able to come in and use the existing building to store or have parking if required. But as far as Hank, after speaking to him, he said, Ivan, I make sure to, as the cars are restored and repaired, contact the customer and he gets out of the business right away. So he says he doesn't store any vehicles because as they're worked on and completed, they are returned to the customer.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that information. That's all my questions for now.
Okay. Are there any other technical or clarifying questions for staff at this time? There are two commissioners that have your cameras off. If you could turn them back on, that would be great, just so we can maintain that. Thank you. No other questions? Okay. Do we have an applicant presentation this evening?
Yes, I believe the
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
The owner?
Megan. Okay. Do you know, is the owner calling in, or if the owner is on the line, can they please raise their hand? I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand.
Okay, I believe the owner was not able to make it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So no applicant presentation this evening. I'll bring it back to Planning Commission. Or, I mean, I know we just went over this. Are there did any other questions pop up about this project? Any other concerns or anything else?
There's an attendee with a phone number, and he's raised his hand. So I believe the owner is perhaps trying to speak by phone. If you can see the number ending in 060, that might be the property owner.
All right, I am asking them to unmute, and I think they're able to talk.
I'm on there. How you doing?
Hello, we can hear you.
Hello. You there?
We can hear you.
Go ahead.
Oh, you hear me. I'm Hank Wimpy, and I'm wanting to put this building up next door.
Did we lose him?
You know, the number's still showing. I don't know, Hank, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, how you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Okay. I'm kind of talking into a phone right now, and I really don't know what's going on other than I've been listening to what you guys have been doing here. So, I mean, is there any questions you have for me other than what I've been hearing here? Or I don't have anything to say to you. I want to build a building, and I'm hoping that you guys are going to allow me to do that.
Commissioner Veach Olson, you have a question for the applicant.
I do. Hi, Hank. Thanks for being with us this evening. Would you just give us a brief history of maybe the current business and what this new business is doing? Or I believe it's your son's business. Just please give us some context. That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I've been here in this location 26 years. We started out a little two-man shop. We have, there's actually 10 people with myself and my wife working here and my son. We've outgrown this, and my son has got into the restoration. He likes the restoration business. So we were trying to split the shop up and make a little more room for all of us to get some work done. So the whole idea next door would be to have a building where we can work on cars, spread them out, not be cramped. We'd have a mezzanine to store parts. And, as we're working on cars, we would have a place to store parts. And, I've been in this neighborhood a long time. It's, everybody thinks the parking's a big deal. We move cars in and out. So it's work for me in this shop. So having another shop is just going to make it that much better as far as parking. All that it's going to be a plus. So I'm real easy about the parking. The parking's going to make it easy. So, and we don't, everything that we do is here in this shop. We do insurance work. So most of our cars are here in on a Monday, gone by Friday. Next door would be a long-term repair shop, and even at that, cars in the restoration business, we take on a minimal amount of cars. We're not trying to set records. We would like to bring in 4 or 5 cars at a time and get rid of them. So that's it.
Okay. Hank, thank you so much. Are there other questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Cole?
Sorry, Hank, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Your existing building's staying and the bigger building's gonna go on the lot next door?
So yeah, here's what's going on. I'm in a building that I built 26 years ago. This is a 3,700 square foot building. I purchased the 2 lots next door approximately 15 years ago. So what I'm doing is taking the 2 lots next door, consolidating them, and
Okay.
there is an existing building on those 2 lots, not this
Okay.
lot. My building stays.
Okay,
So yeah, we're going to end up with 2 separate buildings. They're not going to be connected. They share they'll share the property line, but they're not connected.
okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, not seeing it. Commissioner Acosta?
Yes, I do. Hey, Hank, Ed Acosta. Hey, so I'm familiar with that area, the community right there by the river. And I know you've been here in town for some time. And thank you for addressing the parking thing. I was a little concerned at the beginning about hearing about the parking and how it may impact that area. But I understand you had said that you don't hold cars very long, or you don't, you try to get them out. That's at least what I heard as far as, the hold. But you do get customers that sometimes don't pick them up on time. For instance, you may call them and it may take a few days, right?
Most of the time people want their car back. So, if I have to keep it overnight, I keep it overnight. But we run a pretty good, 26 years, I run a pretty good schedule here. So, and when cars come in, as they go, as cars leave, cars come in. So that's kind of how we run it.
Right. Okay. All right. That's it. Thanks, Hank.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions for the applicant. So Hank, thank you so much for your time here this evening. We appreciate it. We appreciate your participation. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll bring this back to the commissioners with any other clarifying or technical questions for staff. Okay. Not seeing any, I'll move this to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the community who would like to speak on this particular agenda item at this time?
So anyone in the public that would like to speak, please raise your hand. I am not seeing any hands raised.
Okay. Then I will open this up for an appropriate motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation for this project.
I will second.
Okay, we have an active motion on the floor from Commissioner Kammer and a second from Commissioner Acosta. Any deliberation at this time? Any comments anyone would like to make on this particular project?
I guess I do. I'm sorry. One more question. It
Sure.
really had to do with runoff. I wanted to know how much of the area surrounding the buildings was going to be paved, and whether that would affect the runoff that would go to the river. Did that come through at
Yeah,
all?
that's really more of a question back to staff. So
Okay.
Yes, I can answer that question.
Thank you.
So they're creating 12,000 square foot of new impervious surface, and all drainage management areas are required to maintain runoff on site. So they have 3 drainage management areas that are going to be landscape areas, which will capture the stormwater runoff, which will then be plumbed into the city sewer system.
Mhm. Okay. Thank
So
you.
no problem.
So are there questions amongst the commissioners about this project or deliberation about this project? Okay, seeing none, I'll move us to a roll call vote. Alan, would you please do the honors?
I'd be happy to.
And just to clarify, we have an active motion in support of staff recommendations.
Correct. So this is a motion to approve the application for an SUP with design review to allow construction of a new 9,884 square foot automotive restoration shop at 140 Grove by Hank Wimpy. Commissioner Acosta.
Yes.
Commissioner Cole.
Yes.
Commissioner Durantes Polito.
Yes.
Commissioner Camber.
Yes.
Commissioner Sarmiento.
Yes.
Commissioner Veach Olson.
Yes.
Commissioner Chair Jones.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you so much. Once again, congratulations to the applicant, and thank you, commissioners, for your thoughtful questions on this. Thank you. Let's move on to our second agenda item. Recommendation to City Council on an amendment to Chapter 12.A Environmental and Public Safety of the Watsonville 2005 General Plan to incorporate the local hazard mitigation plan by reference into the public safety element of the general plan. Boy, that was a mouthful. That went a lot of different ways. Sorry. And we will now have a staff report.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate the time to present on the local hazard mitigation plan. My name is Jackie McLeod. I'm a senior utilities engineer with Public Works Department in the city. So I am going to try to share my screen, but I am technologically challenged. So please forgive me. This may take a few tries. Susie, would you grant me the authority to share my screen, please?
Oh, maybe.
Or I can do interpretive dance if you guys like dance.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I'm gonna say the magic name of Elena to try to help me here. Huh.
Okay, it looks like I can share it now. We got it.
Okay.
We got it. Thank you, Elena and Susie. I appreciate it. And you're all saved for my interpretive dancing, so you need to thank them. So we're gonna start my slideshow here. Oh, come on. Okay, so we're talking local hazard mitigation planning, which I would like to thank the commissioner who brought up the climate action plan, because local hazard mitigation planning is actually the basis for the beginning of your climate action planning. So the city of Watsonville received a grant from California Office of Emergency Services in the amount of $150,000 to write the first ever single jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. It was an undertaking that we felt was necessary in order to protect the community against natural hazards. So the local hazard mitigation plan only focuses on natural hazards, not anthropogenic. So it's really important to keep in mind as we go through this. It's not that we don't care about those ideas and those concerns, it's just they're not incorporated in the LHMP. What we found is that by writing our first single jurisdictional LHMP, we had an opportunity, an accidental opportunity to have a lot of plan integration and alignment with certain legislative requirements. In particular, the LHMP incorporates AB 2140, which is amending your safety element to put mitigation measures to help create a community that is resilient against natural hazards. We're also required to incorporate SB 379, which incorporates climate change risk and vulnerabilities to communities, because that is a natural hazard that we need to incorporate. There are other bills, as stated in the staff report, that will be incorporated later through SB 99 and AB 747, which included an evacuation analysis. Because this project was a grant project, I had really tight deliverable timelines, so we had to move that out of the LHMP for the time being. So the planning process really began over a year ago. It's felt like a lifetime for me because I was the project manager of this document and I was dealing with California Office of Emergency Services through the wildfire season. So you can imagine it was challenging, as well as I was dealing with FEMA, who was dealing with flooding on the other side of the country. But where we started is when we didn't have a pandemic, we held public meetings and steering meetings so that we could identify what are the hazards in the city that really impact our community. And it wasn't from the staff's point of view, the project manager, or agencies. We really looked to the stakeholders to help us identify what are these hazards of concern. We incorporated that into a risk assessment and overlaid it with a required FEMA tool called HAZAS modeling. You'll have to forgive me, I don't know what the acronym stands for, and the federal government loves their acronyms. Once we identified our risk assessment, we were able to do a mitigation strategy selection. That's the piece that is critical in the LHMP that will help support resiliency in our community. We drafted those mitigation sections into the draft element. We gave public review. We did receive comments in public review that we did incorporate. We sent the draft LHMP to California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA for approval. They approved it, and what I found really interesting was we're one of the first and only LHMPs in the country to have done bilingual outreach, as well as had a kind of diverse population to incorporate into our LHMP. So FEMA really highlighted that when they approved our LHMP. They were very impressed with that aspect of it. So I give kudos to our outreach team because they did the bulk of that work. And so here we are now, December, which is about 3 months before my grant expires, and we have to incorporate by, incorporate by amendment, the mouthful that we started with, incorporate by amendment in the safety element of the general plan. And so that's what we're going to work on tonight. The planning process was very involved. We involved Public Works, Community Development and Planning. Actually, Justin, who is on the call, was our planning chair of our committee. We also worked with Emergency Services, which was fire and police. We had multiple key stakeholders, including Watsonville Wetlands Watch, Pajaro Valley Unified School District. We had Zone 7 County of Santa Cruz Floodplain Management and the Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency. Due to COVID, we were finding a challenge in March. We were required to hold 6 public meetings. We didn't have as much public input in the last 2 meetings, but we got written comment. I won't go into much detail, but you can see we had to outline as part, this is included in the actual attachment 1, where it's included in the LHMP, what we discussed at each public meeting, and that's a stepped process. The city, as part of our accidental opportunity, decided that we wanted to meet community rating system requirements for FEMA National Flood Insurance Program. As many of you are aware, the city of Watsonville suffers from catastrophic flooding when we do have flooding. By incorporating the required community rating system requirements in the local hazard mitigation plan, we're hoping to raise the class of our community rating system in order to give our community a reduction in their flood insurance rates if they're required to hold them. Policies, pardon me. So what are these hazards of concern when we talk about natural hazards versus anthropogenic? Well, we have primary hazards of concern and secondary. Earthquake ranked really high in our community, and I think I'm going to attribute that to the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, which was devastating for the community. So that ranked very high, with flood being the second because of the 95 and 98 floods. We have wind, wildfire, drought, climate change, which climate change is a primary, but throughout all of these hazards, we had to investigate what the vulnerability of climate was for floods, for wind, for wildfire, because we know climate change, we're going to have higher frequency events and higher intensity events as they come along. And I think the demonstration of the CZU fire complex really showed us what climate change can do. We looked at tsunami and sea level rise as well as dam inundation, but the closest dam to us is actually in another county. And so we didn't fully assess that through our modeling. You can see these secondary hazards of concern, why the primary sort of is the problem. We looked at our critical facilities and structures within the city of Watsonville. These are not only public institutions, they include hospitals, schools, Red Cross centers, emergency shelters, and all schools, because all schools within the jurisdictional boundary serve as emergency shelters, as well as the police department and fire departments. Our critical infrastructure is pretty spread out. We have a treatment plant in Corralitos. We have a landfill, which is closed right now. We also have Pinto Lake. We have a wastewater treatment plant. Those all lie outside of the city boundary, but they're part of the city's critical infrastructure that we analyzed for. If, for example, any of our drinking water wells were inundated with water, how would that impact our residents? Well, they would be without clean drinking water, and that is a non-negotiable in the city of Watsonville. So I'm going to walk through a couple of these modeling scenarios, and I won't go into too much detail because number one, I'm not the expert at modeling, and number two, it's too many small numbers to understand for me. We did look at earthquake, and the major earthquake scenarios that were input into the model were the Zayante Vergalis and the historical Loma Prieta. The Zayante Vergalis actually runs through Pinto Lake, and that's why Pinto Lake and the other sag lakes in the region exist. So when you think of Drew Lake, Tynan, Kelly, College, all of those exist along the Zayante Vergalis. When we looked at that, you can tell that the Loma Prieta and the San Andreas has the highest probability of failing right behind the Calaveras subsection. So when we did the analysis, we looked at how would that impact our residents. Flooding probably isn't a surprise to many of you. We use the standard FEMA 100-year floodplain, which you can see impacts a lot of the Pajaro and Salsa Puertas communities. So we're talking the Bay Village, Pajaro Village, down by Walker Street. And the 100-year floodplain actually impacts a few community facilities as well as most of our residents in that area. So it was a high priority to look at flooding. Wildfires surprised me, honestly, because the city we have defensible space around the city, but we did have wildfire risk. So we were able to incorporate that into the LHMP as well. So what are some of these mitigation strategies? What were the questions we were trying to get to? What are the goals that the city wants to reach? And we can see here that we really want to avoid or reduce potential loss of life, injury, and property damage in Watsonville. We want to proactively distribute risk reduction and resilience benefits more equitably so that we're not having one piece of the community having to deal with an issue more than another. We want to improve the capacity of Watsonville government and the community to prevent, protect against, respond to, mitigate, and recover from hazards. And four, we want to advance local, regional, state, federal, private, and community collaboration and partnerships to deliver actionable, effective, innovative risk reduction solutions and data to support decisions. That last one is really important to me. I am not a planner by trade. I work in public works, so I tend to be someone who implements these projects once they're established. So having actionable movement towards climate, towards resiliency in the community against natural hazards is very important to us. These mitigation strategies, we had about 100 of them that came out of the community as well as our planning committee. So we had to pare them down a little bit because I actually have to report on the mitigation strategies on an annual basis to California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA and the community. So I put a few examples of what were our mitigation strategies with our top 4 areas of concern. Flood and drought risk, which some of the mitigation strategies improve existing stormwater infrastructure. So I appreciate Commissioner Cole's question about runoff to the river. Thank you very much. Increasing monitoring of groundwater levels and improve aquifer storage and recovery to reduce drought risk. That's going to become even more important as we see we don't have large rain events. And so capturing when we do have rain events, infiltrating through our groundwater is going to be key. Number 2, when we look at fire and earthquake risk, we look to strengthen and stabilize public facilities and infrastructures such as libraries, wastewater treatment plant, bridges, roads, levees to reduce risk in case of an earthquake. A good example to think of that is Fowles Reservoir, which is off of Freedom Boulevard. That actually survived the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, and we actually have a grant project that we're putting forth to Cal OES to repair the reservoir or to change the structure. We also agreed that implementing a fire risk reduction program by improving eaves or extending roofs on home was key. For climate change adaptation and resilience, which will have its own planning document after the LHMP, what came out of the community was supporting the development and use of community gardens for local food production. It doesn't fall flat on me that the LHMP was being drafted right when the pandemic started happening. So food security is really important in our community and incredibly important to our bilingual community. We also want to look at developing local power grids and power generation to allow the city to generate and distribute electricity, even if the surrounding areas do not have power. That really gets to these public safety power shutoffs that were implemented by PG&E and the state of California during high wind events. They can just go through and shut off your power, which impacts our ability to pump drinking water and treat wastewater. So having an independent grid will really help us as well as support the community. And the biggest key is disaster response and recovery. So part of the disaster response and recovery is developing community participation, leadership, and action to reduce risk in the event of natural hazards and other hazards, and assessing the current capacity of food banks and developing strategies to increase their functionality during disasters. This is just a small piece of our mitigation strategies. It is included in the full LHMP document, which is attachment 1. So what benefit does the city of Watsonville and our community gain by incorporating the LHMP in the 2005 Watsonville General Plan? By incorporating the LHMP into the general plan, the city is actually in compliance with Government Code 65302.6, which was that AB 2140 bill that I referenced. It will make the city eligible for California Emergency Disaster Relief Funding, which we've implemented. We applied for one project behind the wastewater treatment plant in a disaster. So we're hoping to receive funding for that project through a mitigation strategy already. It also provides prioritization of the mitigation actions to make the city of Watsonville more resilient to natural disasters. Some of you may remember the lower right picture is the 1998 flood. And this is actually the town of Pajaro, which we're closely related to. But people couldn't even get out of their homes. They had to row out of their homes to get to safety. So we want to make our community more resilient so we don't see that happen in a disaster again. On the right, I'm showing the snippet of the piece of the general plan that we would like to amend and include the LHMP. And that is policy 12A of environmental and public safety. It's important to note here that the LHMP will undergo CEQA. It's right now common sense exemption for the state CEQA guidelines section 15061B3. And so we will file a notice of exemption once Planning Commission approves this and it goes to City Council. So I would like to thank you for your consideration of the LHMP. If you have any further questions after tonight, feel free to email myself or lhmp@cityofwatsonville.org. Both of them come straight to my email. So thank you very much. And I will try to stop sharing my screen now. Okay, there we go.
Well, Jackie, thank you so much. That was a great report. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Great job. Anyone from the commission have any clarifying or technical questions for Jackie?
By the way, if I may, I just want to highlight many of the wonderful things that Jackie mentioned about the local hazard mitigation plan and the overlap with our general plan. I do have some additional slides to help tie together the LHMP with the general plan and safety element. So if you go through for 1 second, I think it will help show the overall collaboration between our departments and hopefully fill in a few potential gaps at the same time. There we go. All right, can you see the screen okay? Well, if just making sure that you can see the my screen, okay?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, good. Sorry. Well, Jackie gave a wonderful presentation on the nuts and bolts of the LHMP and everything, including the goals and mitigation strategies related to flood risks, fire risks, climate adaptation and resilience, and disaster response and recovery. Also made mention of recent state legislation, which informs why this is being brought before the Commission and Council for formal adoption into the general plan. And so I was going to take a moment to run through those and then leave it up to some clarifying questions for the end. So first and foremost, oops, there's always a delay. I apologize. There we go. So the key one that Jackie mentioned was AB 2440, which was passed back in 2006. There's a series of other ones inform the content of of the LHMP and the safety habit. And what you'll see is a lot of these laws deal with both the timing of when a safety element needs to be updated, as well as the contents that go in it. There's a lot of focus on fire hazards, flood hazards, as well as the impacts from climate change. And those have all been incorporated within the LHMP, and that allows for the safety element to be updated by reference, rather than having to formally update the safety element itself. So you can kill two birds with one stone, as it were. Back in 2016, what was known as the California Disasters Act. This is the one that Jackie spoke to about. Once an LHMP has been prepared and formally adopted by a jurisdiction, it makes the city eligible for receiving funding, so that without having done so, it would only be up to maybe 75%, but now potentially up to 100% of eligible costs the city can receive upon disaster recovery. There's other things that speak to things that have to be a part of the LHMP, and those are again highlighted by Jackie's presentation in terms of earthquake evaluations, an inventory of facilities, and plans on how to reduce potential risk. So all those things, the nuts and bolts that Jackie spoke to, are in the LHMP and then are needed so that we can be able to adopt that into our safety elements, since it deals with those same kinds of concerns about earthquakes, flood hazards, and so forth currently. But this is a way of updating that information, providing new strategies that address a lot of these concerns. So I'm getting a text from Susie to make this short. Okay. Won't be, let's see there. Of course, my slides won't advance. I love this. There we go. The other one around that same time, AB 162, this spoke to flood hazards. And again, the LHMP includes goals, policy, and objectives to address concerns about floods, as detailed before. A few years later, there's another one that dealt with fire hazards that need to be addressed and a safety element. And likewise, based off of state guidelines, again, the LHMP includes specific aspects that adhere to requirements per that state law as well, addressing fire hazards in the community and the surrounding area. More recently, back in 2015, there were other laws that wanted to address how to address hazards created or exacerbated by climate change. And again, this addresses many of those aspects. The LHMP addresses many of those aspects. And again, you saw the goals that spoke to how to adapt and become resilient to changes or effects from climate change. Also around that time, this is another relevant law. This really only has to do with the timing of when climate adaptation strategies need to be incorporated in a safety element more than the content. There are two other laws I should make mention. That's AB 743 and SB 99. These speak to more recent requirements on looking at emergency situations and how community members can evacuate under a range of different scenarios. Likewise, this can be adopted as part of the LHMP, incorporated by reference into the safety element. They also, around that same time, again, SB 99, again, speaking to emergency evacuation routes, that there needs to be at least 2 emergency evacuation routes for that. That analysis has been prepared. There's been a supplement that's been prepared, and this information can easily be incorporated as part of our general plan as an appendix and incorporated by reference as well. Just to give you a preview of what that information and analysis looks like when looking at the overall vulnerability of the community, as well as different evacuation routes, depending on the type of emergency. In this case, on the right, you're looking at fire hazard if it were to occur to the north, and there's other fire hazards in south and other directions, as well as under flooding and so forth, to see what routes are available upon those specific emergencies. And as the topic of this, and then going to City Council, providing text amendments to the general plan safety elements to incorporate these things by reference into our emergency preparedness discussion and amend existing policies and implementation measures. And again, attaching this as an appendix. These are all easy things that we can accomplish and thereby allow us to provide new information and policies into our general plan without necessarily having to do a formal update to the safety element itself, which is why this wonderful teaming opportunity came up. And with that, I'll keep it short and open it back up for planning commissioners.
Thanks, Justin. Much appreciated. So I'll go ahead and open this back up for clarifying and technical questions to staff. So once we get the screen back, I'll be able to see all the commissioners. So commissioners, just give us a quick second so I can see everybody.
Justin, can you stop sharing? There you go.
There we go.
There we go. Wasn't letting me do it, so thank you.
All right. Do we have clarifying questions from the commission? Commissioner Sarmiento. Knew you were going to leave me hanging.
Okay. You know, I don't know if I missed or I didn't hear anything about how maybe it doesn't even fit with this plan, but how are we communicating with the community when there is a hazard? Because I recall a few years ago, and I can't remember which event it was, people were panicking and they left their homes. They were listening to some radio stations. So it created a lot more turmoil within the community. So is anything in your plan that addresses that?
Great question, Commissioner Sarmiento. And you're talking about the tsunami of Japan on La Ganja, where everyone drove to the top of Mount Madonna. So great question. Actually, Assistant Chief Sims put a mitigation measure into the LHMP that would help improve communications and get it out faster, both in English and Spanish. I'm not trying to dismiss that there are other dialects within the community, but the predominant is Spanish, right? So we know we have Mixteca and everything else, but unfortunately we're limited to those two. We have Nixle alerts as well. We do have, if you are outside of the jurisdiction, I know we have reverse 911, but I am not part of the public safety group. So I would look to Susie to sort of fill in that gap for me. So I hope that helped answer your question. We are doing a lot of outreach right now. I know for flood, we're required to, as well as for other natural hazards.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jackie. You know, I would recommend, since we've had so many groups who've stepped up to support the community when it comes to food and supplies through this pandemic, that we use those groups as a way to communicate with other communities that perhaps are not listening to our, regular communication styles that we have in the city already.
Okay. I will write that down because that is in one of our mitigation goals. So
thank you.
Are there other clarifying questions? Okay, no hand raisers. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak to the commission on this particular topic this evening? Susie, do we have anyone raising their hands?
We have exactly 0 attendees, and none of them are raising their hands.
Okay, then closing the public
Should have
hearing
gone with the
portion.
dance version, Jackie.
The interpretive dance version.
I feel like I'm getting off too easy here.
We have a little time to fill. No, I'm kidding.
I'll spare you.
All right, fair enough. So I'll bring
I
it.
guess just really a comment. I'm sorry, I always late when I have to think about what I'm going to talk about. But Jackie, you took words I didn't understand and made them understandable. And I'm really glad that we had this opportunity and that we got the grant funding to be able to do this, because it's a really, really necessary thing that might have not happened otherwise, or it would have pulled from resources that we couldn't pull from. I also feel like it engaged the public in a really in a meaningful way, and I'm the public comment is really interesting. I would like to have a deeper look at that. It really I think it really does speak to what's important to our community, and that sometimes we might not know what the outside fear is when we're so, take everything back to Maslow, right? And that right now we might not be thinking about something bigger because we're worried about, like, we're in safety mode, right? We're still all worried a little bit about our safety. So it's harder for us to think about those bigger picture potential hazards. So I'm glad there's folks like you that have that, 1,000-foot view or 1,500-foot view and can help us understand why we need to pay attention. So that I think was really what I wanted to say. And I just think that it also speaks to how interconnected everything is with climate change and with where we live. Like we are perched there on the edge of the world, and things that that can affect us we often don't think about. So thank you for putting all this together in a packet that we could understand.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole, and I will have to thank Susie and Justin for helping me, because I do not speak planning. I speak a different language, so they definitely supported this project quite a bit with me, so thank you. And I will say the grant, as you talk to resources, I think it's important to highlight that this was a no matching fund grant. This was 100% paid for by the state of California. So the city of Watsonville did not have to match this project at all.
Great. Thank you. Are there other clarifying? Well, no, I guess we just closed the public hearing, so now we can open it for an appropriate motion. Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
I'll move. I will move to accept the staff recommendation to adopt the resolution, recommending that the city council adopt a resolution amending what we need to amend so that we can put this LHMP into our general plan.
And I would like to make second that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Sarmiento. So we have a active motion on the floor in support of staff recommendation. Is there any deliberation amongst the commission at this time over the motion? Commissioner Kammer, yes.
Do we need to recommend to council as well that they include what Commissioner Sarmiento said, the communication piece, or is that going to be part of it anyway?
I believe that's already part of it. Jackie, is that correct?
We can look at the mitigation strategy, and I believe it is already captured. We do rely on our partnerships, but let me look back at that mitigation strategy. I think it is already captured by Assistant Chief Sims.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it's in there because it's an important piece. to have in there. I just want to make sure that we are recommending to council that that is also a portion of it if it isn't already in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I will
Thank you.
say that if it isn't in the current LHMP mitigation, because right now what's before you is already an approved LHMP by the two agencies, we will be updating this on an annual basis. So we can update and add mitigation strategies.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other deliberating comments, conversations we need to have around this motion? Seeing none, I will call for a roll call vote. Alan, would you please do the honors?
Be glad to. Thank you, Chairman. Okay, the motion was stated by Commissioner Cole. I'm not going to repeat it. Seconded by Commissioner Sarmiento. I'll go through the roll. First of all, Acosta.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Durantes Polito.
Yes.
Hammer.
Yes.
Sarmiento.
Yes.
Veach Olson.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Chairman Jones, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Alan. I'm much appreciated. Once again, thank you very much, Jackie, for the presentation, and Justin. A lot of work, obviously, and thank you so much for getting this done with a non-matching grant. Awesome. Didn't cost us anything, and it looks like we're going to get safer as a city. So before I turn it over to the report of the secretary, I would like to send out one last thank you that I didn't get to earlier. And I would really like to thank my council person who recommended me for this role. And that's Trina Kaufman-Gomez. Really took a chance on me, not having a lot of experience doing this, to put me in this position. So I just wanted to give a shout out to her, long standing council member with a lot of years of service. So thanks to her. So anyway, report of the secretary. I think we're ready.
Hey there. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Jackie. Great job. Thanks for joining our little planning commission. Not so little. I just want to echo the thanks to both Jenny and Matt for your service and volunteer on the planning commission. It has been great working with both of you, Jenny, for all these years. Wonderful, and I wish you well on your future work that you do with the city. Thank you. You're an amazing member of the community, person, and thank you for all your assistance on the planning commission. And Matt, it was great working with you as chair this year. I know you're doing the happy dance, stepping off, spending time with your family. But it was great having you on the planning commission and working with you over this absolutely crazy year, going online and just dealing with all of the things that we've dealt with over the last 9 months. So thank you so much. And just a couple of announcements. We've got our Downtown Specific Plan Advisory Committee meeting on December 15th at 5:30. The announcement is out, should be up on our website. We're going to be going over the survey results. Those are in. We got over 500 responses, a really great turnout. Special thanks to Ivan, and we had a couple, I call them retired census workers, but people who are working on the census that switched over to help us with outreach on the survey. And Ivan was at the farmer's market every Friday for I think 3 or 4 Fridays and got amazing results. Lots of people turning in the survey. So we're gonna go over that. We're gonna go over some guiding principles, and then looking forward at some design ideas. So put that on your calendar. And that's about it. We may have a new a couple new commissioners at our January meeting. It looks like our meeting date is going to be January 11th, but we will absolutely confirm that with you before it happens. And I want to wish you all a happy and safe holiday season, and we will see you in the new year.
Great. Thanks, Susie. So everyone, be safe, be happy, be merry. Anyway, as my last official act, Godspeed. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.